welcome to Optics Featured Artist in the Griffin Gallery at WinCAM. I'm Krista Dix, Executive Director of the Griffin Museum of Photography, and we're thrilled you've joined us to hear from our featured artist, Anastasia Sierra. The Griffin Museum is based in Winchester, including our satellite gallery located here at WinCAM. Bittersweet is part of our larger summer exhibition Visionary on the grounds and walls of the Griffin Museum and our satellite galleries dedicated to the art of visual storytelling. This public art installation highlights over 60 photographic artists located throughout Winchester in public parks, on sidewalks, and on light poles throughout Winchester's downtown, now on view through September 25th. Anastasia Sierra is a portrait and fine art photographer based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Her evocative work delves into the profound themes of motherhood, womanhood, and the body, always approached from a distinct feminist perspective. Drawing inspiration from dreams and the unseen, she constructs photographs that lay bare internal tensions, the conflicting emotions inherent in motherhood, and the delicate balance between the universal need for connection and the innate desire for independence. Through her lens, she seeks to deepen her understanding of her own experiences, forging a profound connection with the people and places she photographs. Her work has been showcased in exhibitions both nationally and internationally, with recent exhibitions at the Catherine Schultz Gallery in Cambridge, the Photographic Resource Center, the Griffin Museum, the Vermont Center of Photography, and the Soho Gallery in New York. She is currently pursuing her photography MFA at the Massachusetts College of Art and Design. Welcome, Anastasia.
Thanks so much for having me. It's such a joy to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about motherhood. This series, Bittersweet, is a connection between you and your son. We're watching him grow up in all of your images. How did the series start, and how is it progressed? And in the images that we're looking at, what is the time frame?
So the time frame is about 5 years, and I never thought I'd photograph motherhood. I remember when I was pregnant and when Julian was a baby, people were saying like, "Oh my God, now you have something to photograph." And I was like, "Oh no, I don't want to be one of those people who photograph babies." I wanted to say that I started photography with a big interest in fashion and fashion photography. Before I became a mom, I was working towards a career in fashion. And then when I became a mom, I had to take some time off, and I was really missing being an artist. I was still working here and there, but I experienced a profound identity shift. And at some point I was even thinking that I wasn't going to ever make art again, because fashion shoots are pretty time demanding and involve a lot of logistics, a lot of planning, and I just couldn't justify spending that kind of effort and money and time on my work, so I didn't make anything I loved for a while. And then when he started walking, I thought that maybe I could try making pictures of the two of us using more or less the same approach. So that's when it all started. And we were living in California, in San Francisco at the time, but we were about to move. So I made a few pictures of us against the beautiful California landscapes, just like a little memory, a little postcard of that time. And then I stopped and we moved back to Boston. I was excited to be here because I know this place quite well. And I was shooting events and making portraits. And I decided to take a portrait photography class with Rania Matar at Massart. And initially my plan was to make work with other mothers and their children. And then COVID started. That plan went out the door, and I had to go back to photographing us in our home.
So talk a little bit about that balance between being a professional photographer or a working photographer and now a fine art photographer, since that's a very specific shift.
Yeah, those are two very different things. And when I started out with photography, I set out to make a living doing that, and it was quite difficult to set myself up as a freelance artist. So most of my focus was on different ways of making money with photography. And I feel like while that time was really rewarding for me, I didn't make my best work because I was following other people's needs. And I think actually motherhood and COVID gave me a pretty good break, and I realized what I needed to make better work. And right now I still take commissions, but I approach two areas separately sometimes, unless the commission involves, like working in my particular style. Lately I've been working more with other mothers and their children and using the same kind of light.
Let's talk about portraiture a little. So when you are photographing for a client, you are meeting their needs. When you started photographing with your son, what was the first image that you knew that you had it, and that you knew that this was a story that you wanted to pursue?
I think the very first one was when he was playing with my red hat, and he was wearing a blue onesie, and he ran through our living room, and he ran into this shaft of light, and I took a picture, and I still sometimes show it. It's not very sharp, but I loved how the light brought out the blonde of his hair and his delicate skin, and the colors really, really popped. And another big thing with that kind of light, the shadow areas are really black, so all the mess was in the shadows. And I was like, oh my God, my life can actually be really beautiful. And I fell in love with that light, and specifically also with the way it brings out colors and texture. And this light pretty much became my guiding light for this project.
Color and light really do play a very important, almost third person in these photographs. Tell us how you're motivated by light or by color. When you're setting up your photographs, do you think about one over the other, or do they both play a part in how that final image comes through?
I think everything for me starts with the light. I'm just in love with it, and to the point when if I'm busy, like this morning I was driving my son to camp, and I saw a beautifully lit space, and I stayed too long at a green light to make a photograph of that, and I actually have a plan to get back there some morning later this week. So it all starts with light and the way it hits a particular space, and I think of that as a stage for my images, and then I think about the colors and how to work with them, and then how to place us.
Let's talk a little bit about a typical photo shoot. What happens? How does that moment happen, and how do you and your son collaborate? How long does it take to take that photograph? Are you thinking about it days in advance, minutes in advance? I know we talked a little bit about the spontaneity of the light, but what is the process like?
So my process is very driven by light. So often I'll check the weather forecast for the week and see when I can make the picture and how it aligns with our schedules. For me, the main thing is to get started and also to know where exactly to take the picture. And then I set a tripod and start making pictures first with just me in the frame, because my son still doesn't have a whole lot of patience with this work. So I tried to figure out what could work visually, and then I asked him to come into the picture. And I think a lot of the work for me also happens during the editing. I take tons of pictures during every shoot, and it's figuring out which one is the one that has the most emotional content, the most mystery.
How much of a collaborator is he? Does he come to you with ideas of what to photograph next?
Yeah, he has his ideas. We have our list of ideas that we try. He also has learned what kind of light excites me, so very often when it's a bright sunny day, he'll say, "Mama, let's go take a picture." It's the right kind of light.
How long do you think that collaboration's going to last?
I hope it lasts forever. Definitely for as long as he lets me do that. And I think also for me it's important to take breaks every now and again, because I want to keep it exciting for him. I take a very long time to make this project, to make these pictures, and also often I'll get back to the same idea over and over. And it can be frustrating for me when I set everything up, and just when things are beginning to work out, my son is done with that. So I have to do it on multiple days, and it can get a little bit boring for him, so I have to be careful with that.
How do you make the decision between photographing outside versus photographing inside?
When I photograph outside, I usually take notes with my phone if I walk around and see an interesting space where I could make a picture. My ideas are really driven by the light and space, so and most of my work has been made either in our house or in Cambridge, within a few blocks from our house. I sometimes take notes with my phone when I see interesting light and think it could work for a picture, and then we come back to that space with a bunch of clothes and try out ideas.
There is a stunning image in the exhibition of the two of you on what looks to be a ferry. Was that spontaneous?
That was in a house we were staying in Italy. So that's one of the few travel pictures that I took. I just really liked that frame and the way the light was hitting the space.
So that was a home and not a ferry?
No, it was not a ferry.
Okay.
Yeah, I just had a beautiful view of the lake. And I don't take a whole lot of pictures when we travel. Also, we don't travel a whole lot. But I recently started trying to do at least one picture on a trip.
Let's talk a little bit about your journey to photography. How did you get started? What excited you about photography instead of any other type of art form?
So photography was very much an accident for me. I didn't grow up doing visual arts. My original background is in linguistics, and I wanted to take a language course at an adult education center, and then it didn't fill up, and I looked through the other options, and photography was there. And I think I was lucky that it happened during the time when digital cameras became more affordable, so I got one. And from the moment I took my first few pictures with it, I started thinking of myself as a photographer. And at first I was taking my camera everywhere, and that was back in my early 20s, so I was going to a lot of parties, and I was taking pictures at parties of my friends. I realized there was just a different way of looking at my life. I was really into black and white back then, and I would take these candid shots, and then sometimes people would look at them and say, oh, this looks like a still from a Hitchcock movie. And I liked that, and also told me that, you know, I could pretty much make up any story out of the fabric of my own life. So that was the beginning. And then I also was looking at a lot of fashion photography magazines, fashion magazines at the time. And I really liked the look of fashion photographs because very often they create this worlds that offer an escape from the everyday. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to try that approach, so I started setting up shoots with models, designers and makeup artists. And for a while I found that quite exciting. And then I even wanted to do it as a career, but it turned out quite challenging. And I think the bit that was lacking for me was a sense of meaning and purpose. So right now I use some of the elements of fashion photography, but I do have a story to tell, which is my story.
Let's talk a little bit about fashion in comparison to your current images. There's a certain expansiveness in fashion photography where you see the whole world as well as the model, right, wearing the clothes. So there's a situational awareness where in your images they're so intimate and so personal. We feel like we're viewing a very quiet moment between you and your son. Talk a little bit about how fashion influenced those intimate moments and the push and pull between the two.
I think I was drawn to fashion photography because it's visually very exciting. It provides an escape from the everyday. It's beautiful. And I wanted to bring in those elements into my work, like color and wardrobe. For me, this project is very much an escape from the chaos of motherhood. So I think that's why I use elements of fashion. At the same time, when I was working on fashion shoots, I loved the collaboration, but the process made it difficult for me to make the images I wanted to make because very often there are a lot of people involved on set, and I started to understand that I need a more one-on-one approach with the person. That
a little more control.
Yeah, more
over
control,
what was happening around you.
Yeah. And to make an intimate image, I feel like one needs time and one needs to build a connection with the person they photograph. and that was a little difficult in fashion. And also I feel like I didn't really have a sense of purpose for my fashion pictures. They were fun, beautiful stories, but I think I was looking for deeper meaning in my work, and motherhood offered that.
Let's talk a little bit about the push and pull of motherhood, of having this person next to you and then watching them grow and change and have their own opinions, especially when you're working together and collaborating together. How do you find that moment to let go and let your son be an individual while you're still connected and collaborating?
I think this tension very much feeds my work. Early on, when I started making pictures during COVID, I felt like we were spending way too much time together. So in some of those images were together in the same frame, occupying the same space, but looking away. And then when the isolation became less relevant, I was also noticing how quickly the time goes by. So I started making more intimate images of our bodies touching. So I think a lot of my work is about this, and right now, when he goes off and does his own thing, I feel relieved, but at the same time I want him to come back. Yeah, I feel like this thread runs through my work.
Has he decided that he needs to go into photography as well?
Not really, but he's talking about making movies. That probably shows my flaws as a parent, but he does he does get exposed to YouTube quite a bit, and he's really into trains, so he got inspired by some train series on YouTube, which I'm excited to support.
So talk a little bit about your pursuing a master's. How has that changed your vision of your own work?
I'm really loving being in the program, and I think it really expanded my photography work. I wouldn't say my work changed a lot. My rhythm of working has, and the thing with master programs, they're very, very intense, and we have to produce work on a 3-week cycle. And I wasn't used to that. And also we get a lot of different opinions on our work, which is very helpful. But I feel like I need time and space to make sense of those opinions.
There's a profound shift in being an individual, being a mother, being an artist. How do you navigate the push and pull of each identity of your practice?
I think this is very difficult to combine, but I just go through this experience with an awareness that each area of my life feeds the other. And ever since I started making work about motherhood, I've become a better mother. Very often I make these pictures early in the morning because of the time the light comes to our house. And then I feel like I've done my job for the day, and then I'm open to, be present for my family. Which is important. So yeah, these areas feed each other, but at the same time there's a lot of tension, a lot of balancing, and I just have to let some things go and let go of the perfection.
From the time that the project started, or the series started, what were your expectations, and how have those expectations changed over time?
I really didn't have any expectations apart from continuing to make this work. I think photography has always been sort of like a therapy for me. It helps me find beauty in my everyday life. So that's very much the same. I just want to continue making this for as long as I can. With that said, it's easy when you work on something for a long time to repeat yourself. And I'm becoming aware that there's a certain kind of image that I already have in the series and I don't need more of. So I'm trying to find new ways of working to surprise myself. Also, a recent addition to this work is working with my father, who recently came to live with us from Russia. And it's wonderful, but it also hasn't been without challenges. So I have more attention to bring into my work now.
I was going to say, how many generations now in the house? How do you balance that between working with your son and now working with your father?
So my son gets very jealous when I make pictures with my dad. He's like, "Oh, I'm not your picture maker anymore." So that's kind of sweet. My dad right now, he's in Russia, but he's coming back soon. And I try to make work with both of them when I can. And it's definitely been a wonderful experience for us, for the three of us, to create something together.
Thank you so much for sharing your creativity, for sharing your stories. It's such a joy to have this work on the walls here at WinCAM.
Thank you so much, Krista. I'm so honored to be here.
And thank you for joining us for this edition of Optics, Featured Artist in the Griffin Gallery at WinCAM. Anastasia Sierra's exhibition Bittersweet is on the walls here until September 29th, 2025, and is free and open to the public during WinCAM's regular hours of operation. WinCAM is located at 32 Swanton Street. For more information on the Griffin Gallery at WinCAM or other programs offered through the Griffin Museum, please log on to our website at griffinmuseum.org. Thanks for watching.